The Toronto Maple Leafs have done it, and they shocked everyone, winning in overtime against the Boston Bruins in what is undoubtedly their biggest game of the year and the most exciting game that we've watched in a long time, even though there was only 3 goals total. We're going to break that down as well as some of the comments that the players had. And the Leafs now have some momentum, returning home for Thursday with a chance to force a Game 7. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. Before we do, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We noticed that 80% of you guys who are watching are not subscribed. We are making daily Leafs content, uploading multiple times a day. So if you could hit that button, we're on the road to 10,000. You guys are crushing it. 10,000 is a huge goal for Darius and I. So if we can get there, it would mean the world. If you want a part of that 88% that aren't subscribed, hit that button right now and scroll down and do that. But Darius, you just finished up a stream. I was in downtown Toronto watching the game. The atmosphere down there was great. The atmosphere around Toronto was feeling good. And the Leafs now have a chance to force a Game 7. And the pressure, like we discussed earlier today in our video from, I don't know, a few hours ago, one of the two, the pressure is on the Bruins now. Obviously, the Leafs still have some pressure, but let's just get into it. I want to pop up the box score for you guys in case you missed the game, but what a dominant, not really dominant game from either end, really, besides Joseph Woll, who was absolutely lights out tonight. And to be quite frank, he definitely, Matthew Knies won the Leafs the game, but he was the reason they were in it. That game could have been over a lot earlier, and he outdueled Jeremy Swayman in a game where Jeremy Swayman was also unbelievable. Crazy.
Yeah, Joseph Woll was everything for the Leafs tonight. I mean, he's exactly what they needed to backstop them to a win. I feel like too many times earlier in this series that the Leafs didn't have goals taken away, if that makes sense, from their goaltender. Sure goals taken away. Where on the other end with Jeremy Swayman, you do have those where he's taken away sure goals from the Leafs. So finally in this game, I feel like the Leafs got a couple of those from Joseph Woll. And barring any injuries, I think it's Joseph Woll the rest of the way here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't see Ilya Samsonov possibly ever playing for the Leafs again if there is no injury. I think that's a very real possibility at this point. But jokes aside, Joseph Woll was fantastic for the Leafs. Matthew Knies gets it done in overtime. And if you have been a Leaf fan for a while, you know that the Toronto Maple Leafs, nothing is ever easy with them. So if they're going to do it, it's going to be the hard way.
They have a very good record in Game 6s, and they ultimately, or in Game 5, sorry, and they ultimately were able to tie it up now with a chance to force a Game 7 in Game 6 on Thursday. But we knew coming in that, when the Leafs were down 3-1, they obviously have a good record, so what could possibly go wrong? And ultimately, the game, there was a lot of times where Joseph Woll, if he didn't shut the door, there were even some big plays by some of the defense. Everyone really kind of stepped up besides scoring. And let's not forget, Darius, Austin Matthews was not playing. This is something
Right.
that obviously we all know, but it got confirmed about half an hour before the game. Austin Matthews didn't play in this game, and the game was so intense that some people probably forgot about it. I almost forgot about it until just then when I remembered that Austin Matthews wasn't playing. The power play is still a major issue. Obviously, not having Matthews hurts that a lot. But let's get into some of the comments by Matthew Knies. You black out a little bit. I was just so excited and so happy. I think what brought me more joy was to see the faces of my teammates and how much they wanted to keep playing and keep moving on. Matthew Knies is an absolute. If he can learn and continue to learn how to use his size, he's going to be one of the best players on the Leafs for a while. And we also saw there during the scuffle where he stood up for his teammate saying that, "Do you want to fight me?" Pasternak said no, and then he got in his face. Like, it was the Matthew Knies game alongside Joseph Woll, obviously, but it was such a big boost. And this is big for Matthew Knies going forward. No matter what happens in this series, for him to score a goal like this, a young player, and not only a goal, an elimination game, overtime goal against a goalie, and the Leafs could not get anything going. I mean, if you watch the game, they were getting some decent shots, nothing too high danger. There was a few there at the time where there was like a scuffle in front of the net and almost went in. But Darius, I'm really fired up now. Game 7 or Game 6 very, very soon too. You only have a day to think about it, and you're right. Joseph Woll is 100% going to start probably the rest of the way no matter what happens, because his ceiling, I think you mentioned it in your stream, like Samsonov, when he's good, he's okay. He's pretty good, but when he's bad, he loses games. And Joseph Woll looked absolutely calm in the net tonight. And even in the one goal he let up, he didn't panic at all. 96.6 save percentage. What a game.
Yeah. And I think another unsung hero, like you said, this was the game of Matthew Knies, most definitely. I thought he had a great game. He was using his size, getting in on the forecheck. And again, that thing with Pasternak, I loved every little bit of that. It's the little things that matter in playoff hockey. And him asking Pasternak if he wanted to go instead of him with Riley, Pasternak saying no, and then him shoving him and laughing in his face. It's the little things that matter. I love that from Matthew Knies. But another unsung hero of the game, Max Domi, 12 face-off wins to 2 losses. Huge, huge deal in this game. I mean, it was a big part of their good first period, and I think that's You come out of the first period 1-1 with the Bruins. You're feeling good about that because of the way the rest of the series has gone. So another unsung hero there. And I thought a lot of guys just stepped up tonight. I think that was key for the Leafs. And you need that the rest of the way. Like this was the Matthew Knies game. Maybe next game it's somebody else who steps up, right? You're going to need that the rest of the way if you're going to get this done and go further in the playoffs. And it's definitely possible at this point. The doubt is starting to creep into the Bruins' minds. Yes, they can still win the game six, but the ghosts from last year are definitely there. And could they repeat history again, right?
Yeah, not only did they blow it last year, they lost this game at home, like I'm going to keep saying, without Austin Matthews. This was the game that they should have won. And really looking at the game in general, Jeremy Swayman should be, he almost stole them the game, and they should have really won this game if you're a Bruins fan, that is. But if you're a Leafs fan, I mean, you take it. They battled without Matthews the first period. They were out shooting the Bruins 12-2. Like, they came out ready to play, and that's what they had to do. And you can pause and read this as well. This is some of the teammates speaking out on Matthew Knies. It is the Matthew Knies show. Just an overall very good game for him. All series long has been a force I feel like to be reckoned with. And I was telling him he's the strongest guy in the ice. He's only 21 years old, an absolute horse out there. And it was so great to see him score the goal. And it felt like every time the Leafs got a chance to score, it was being stopped. And then to see one finally go in the back of the net in what feels like it's been ages since the Leafs had a positive moment. Everything's been so negative surrounding like the injuries, the team. Were for the brief, at least 48 hours we have, or 45 hours-ish at the time of recording, it's been positive. And this is what we were talking about earlier. So I bet Money Knies was scoring the OT winner after this moment. Fired up the team a little bit there at the end of the second period. And he's the one who wants it. I mean, we were talking about how the team, some players seem like they don't want it. Matthew Knies definitely seemed like he wanted tonight, and he ultimately got the win. It's crazy how the hockey gods work sometimes and things like this.
Yeah, it's true. And he did look like he wanted it. That's a great point, Nick. I mean, like a lot of the Leafs don't seem like they wanted it in game four or even before that. This has been the whole issue with this Leafs core and the whole question mark behind if they lose this series,
They
right? But
battled
Matthew
tonight, though.
Knies, yeah, they battled tonight. A lot of these guys, they did battle tonight. And Matthew Knies is one of those guys who come out and you got to lead by example. I even thought Tavares played a pretty strong game too. Again, the foot speed thing is a problem, but it's not going to go away, right? So I thought he had a strong game other than that. But Matthew Knies. It was the Matthew Knies game, and he showed that he wanted it, and you got to lead by example. If you continue to put in good shifts like that, your teammates are going to want to follow it up. So if you're playing apathetic and lethargic out there, that's what's going to follow, right? So we need more of that out of guys like Matthew Knies heading forward. And I don't know. I feel like he's feeling good about himself now. After a game like this, watch him to come out and kind of explode in game six. I'm sure he'll put together some good shifts to start the game.
Yeah, we're talking about confidence now, which is what matters going into these last few games. You have Joseph Wall coming off of an amazing performance. You're coming home. You have a great game from Matthew Knies, obviously, and Mitch Marner. He still looked a little shaky at times. I am going to give him some credit here. We're going to give some Mitch Marner praise. There was a few times where he turned over the puck or wasn't looking the greatest. He got back on defense right away, cut off some big high danger opportunities for the Bruins a couple of times there, which is good to see. Because even when he's not playing great, he had some rough moments in this game. He at least got back and stopped a couple of 3-on-2s there and made it 3-on-3 when they were attacking. But yeah, you mentioned it. Tavares, like everyone seemed like they wanted tonight. You can kind of tell from the get-go when they came out and they out shooting the Bruins 12-2 on the road. And they're a better road team, which is the Leafs, that is, which is, I guess, a bit unfortunate now because we're going back home. But you keep looking at the box score here. And I mean, everyone, you could really say something positive about almost everyone who played, and that's what you want to see. The defense was solid. Benoit with a massive hit. I think it was in the third period. Yeah. It was great, and just in general, I mean, about as good of a game. I'm not going to say about as good a game you could have asked for, but it's all you needed. Bertuzzi, he had his hands all over the game, even though he didn't get a point. He was looking pretty. Yep. He's a battler. He's someone you want on your team, especially this time of year. He hasn't been the best this playoffs, but he grinded tonight. So any final thoughts on it before we wrap up? Because there's going to be a lot of content for tomorrow, and we can go to sleep happy for one day or at least one last time throughout the season. Yeah. So we should cherish it.
Yeah, through the eye test and the advanced stats tonight, you could tell that the Leafs' quote unquote worst players are supposed to be their worst players on the night, which is like the fourth line and guys like that, right? And maybe your bottom pairing defenseman. So everything matched up for the Leafs. Your top guys were your top guys. Everyone played pretty well. You have some scary moments, but your goaltender keeps you in the game and gives you a chance to win. Everything went right for the Leafs tonight, and I think they made it happen by moving their feet and doing all the right things. And they have to continue to do that the rest of the way because there's no room for error now. You have to get it done. But we'll see how the Bruins react too. They might be getting a little nervous. I think it's all factoring into this now. It's going to be a really interesting game six to see how it sways either way in the first period.
Yeah, I'm sure Kirk over at Bruins Digest is in some shambles right now with this game. But that'll wrap it up. we can go to bed happy for at least one more night on this, what has been a very long 85 or 86 game season so far. But that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow with lots of videos.